Alright, Micah, so I'm going to get right into it from the face-on view. I see some excellent improvements on your end. So, setup looks outstanding. Nice distribution of weight. That looks about 50-50 to me. Now, let's start off with focusing on width, and just to see how much you've improved. Check out the amount of space that you're gaining here between the right elbow and the body. So this is, to me, obvious that you've made massive improvement. I've never seen your takeaway look so good from the face-on view. We'll get to the down the line view later. So by the time you get to P3, you can see that this is perfectly at 90 degrees in terms of wrist hinge, and by incorporating a wider takeaway at P3, if we measure the amount of shoulder turn you have, it's substantially more as well. So very well done. Now, a couple things before I get into the lower body and some of the specifics. I'm noticing that for the first time here, it looks like your club is actually a little bit beyond parallel to the ground. Now with irons, I like to teach a backswing where the club at the very top, which would be P4, is shy of parallel. So you could simply just, turn back and then stop maybe right about here. So that way, again, the iron is less than parallel to the ground. Anytime you go beyond parallel, especially with the iron, I think you are compromising control. Alright, so then as you go down, here we are at P5. For the first time here, I can see an increase in wrist hinge. Now, I still would like to see more of this. So the idea, brilliant takeaway, great looking spot at P3 as I discussed, but when we get to P4, P5, I would say just crank your wrists as much as you can to increase that angle, because I'm still seeing what I would call a wide release. So at this point, here's your left arm, here's the club. They're almost in line, so I would love to see that club trailing more so that you can achieve forward shaft lean, opposed to flipping a little bit through impact. Now, nice job getting the hips over here, right? So you're back to driving laterally, which is nice. All right, so let's remove some of these lines. And I want to point out something that I'm noticing. Now, I think I sent you a message, and I was talking about this. When you're on the course, absolute maximum of 2 swing thoughts. I like to bring usually 1 thought to the course, sometimes 2. When you're doing drills or slow motion rehearsals, it's okay to have, maybe 3 swing thoughts, but you just can't work on too much at once. The idea is to make one thing a habit, hit balls over and over, and then work on the next fundamental item. So one fundamental item that I'm seeing here, I know that something I pointed out, it looks like when you're going back, you're loading a little bit into this left side too much. So see this angle here, it's canted inward. And again, this is still part of the backswing here. Notice it's subtle, but your hips are emerging again on the opposite side of the line. So I'd love to see just a little bit more of a gap here on the way back. So again, in very simple terms, when you turn back, instead of kind of locking this right leg and having this angle here, try and stay more pressed up against that yellow line. Now you can grab like an orange construction cone, use a golf bag. There's a lot of little tricks you can do just to feel like you're loading more again into that right side on the way back. But other than that, lots of great stuff. Let's shift over to the down the line view. Alright, so from down the line, and I know that this is something I mentioned before, but sometimes things that seem simple are hard to change when we hit a lot of shots and we have certain pieces of the swing ingrained in our minds. So if you look at your feet here, I would simply back both of your feet up about 3 inches and leave the rest of your body exactly where it's at. So I know you sent me a message talking about hitting occasional shanks, and I think one of the reasons is, if you're standing close to the ball and you combine that with the weight driving too much into that left side, so again the left knee is working down this way and you're losing a little bit of depth, you're getting closer to the ball, so that would explain that. Alright, so just a simple setup change would help a lot. Now let's focus on some positives here, because what I'm noticing is some pretty encouraging stuff. So as usual, nice looking takeaway, club head in the hands are right on track. And check out your head. So this is the first time that I can recall where it's actually lowering. There we go. And then the downswing, it's lowering even more. So that's outstanding. A little bit steeper of an angle here. Now I'd love to see this angle continue to get steeper as you continue to do the wall drill. So again, your hips are sliding off the line again. But you're on the right track. If you were not on the right track, you wouldn't see your head going down like this. So can think of it almost, it's kind of a radical thought, but if you were to do a stretch where you just, are standing completely upright and you reach down and try and touch your toes, right? That's effectively creating space in this area. And the more space you create in the midsection, the right elbow can drive in front of the body. The right elbow gets in front, the club will trail. You can think of this as a sidearm throwing motion. Imagine throwing a baseball sidearm. It's a really interesting swing thought that I think, though, is very helpful. Alright, so as you go down, there's that club nicely above the right forearm. Club pretty darn close to hitting the hands here. Now, I haven't mentioned this, but, given that your swing is getting better, figured I would be a little bit more picky. I'm noticing that your right heel is lifting up pretty early. I like to try and keep that right foot planted, and this might sound odd, but if you leave that right foot down longer and feel as if the right leg is shooting 45 degrees that way. Once again, the right leg, as the hips are opening up, shoots 45 degrees that way. I think you'll find that your hips won't slide off of that line as much. So the wall drill will help, but that's another thing to do, and you can just, practice slow motion rehearsals with that. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like. We'll pull up a PGA Tour Pro. But again, really nice job. You're on the right trajectory with a lot of this stuff. I can tell you've been putting in the work. So let's take a look here. Alright, so I know I showed you Anthony Kim as a model in one of the previous lessons. I'd like to remain consistent with that. So just right away, notice another example of the feet compared to where you are. He's standing a little bit farther away from the ball. So again, just you could back your feet up at address. Now, the only thing I would quibble with if I were coaching him, which I'm not, and he's retired anyways, but the club head's a little bit outside the hands. But barring that, this is about as good of a golf swing as I've ever seen. So check this out. Hips are deeper. The head is lowered. And the head is lowered because as he is turning back, his chest, his shoulder, everything is going straight down towards the ground. So there's this excellent angle. Very steep turn. And when you make that angular turn, the advantage of that is what we're going to see here. So again, the shaft is above the right forearm, just like you. and that club head is intersecting with the hands like you, but look at his right elbow. This is a key difference. The right arm is more in front of the body. And notice too, on the downswing, his hips went even farther back, right? His head's even a little bit lower. Now, the right foot is still on the ground. So we're going to see, this is that 45-degree angle here. Watch what happens through impact. So that left leg, you can even see the front of his left foot is elevating because there's so much weight into his left heel. I would call that a 45-degree thrust. Everything is opening and he's really deep. And check out the angular tilt that he's maintained through the ball. So again, it's not like you have to copy this exactly. I just wanted to show you a model, knowing that it looks like you have a pretty athletic frame. So I think you're physically capable of getting into a position at least closer to this than what you currently are. So let's close this out by looking at a couple other examples from the face-on. Alright, so from this view, again, a couple oddities in the setup. He's almost a little bit pigeon-toed, but a lot of brilliant action here. So again, with, like we talked about, P3, just like you, 90 degrees. Now, regarding the lower body though, check out how he is bracing right into that yellow line on the way back. So again, more weight to the right. And then he's going to increase this wrist hinge. And this is another example of the club, the iron, stopping short of parallel. At this point, he's already starting to shift his weight. So again, the club short of parallel, loading more to the right. And then when we get to P6, if we draw a line, the ball straight up towards the hands, check out where this club is. So again, he's essentially maintaining that wrist hinge and holding on to that angle so that he can have forward shaft lean and compress the ball. Alright, and then myself, not as pretty of a swing as Anthony Kim by any means, but again, at setup, I think this is better to have the left foot flared out. So again, with, just like you. But notice, again, my right side, I'm going to keep it pressed up against that yellow line. So here we are, roughly 90 degrees. And then what I'm trying to do here, once again, another example of the iron being shy of parallel at the top by a bit. Regarding that right arm action, I'm going to really try and dig this right elbow down. And I could do a better job of this, but that's the idea. You could think of it again, sidearm throw, or another way, Micah, to think of this is imagine skipping a stone across water, kind of that sidearm or submarine style throw, that right elbow digging in front. So again, somewhere around P6, I'm trying to hold that wrist hinge as much as I can so that, again, forward shaft lean going into the ball. And that will dramatically improve your contact over time. Left knee is snapping back. The weight is, I'm doing my absolute best to just hammer my left heel into the ground through impact. Alright, so definitely watch this video more than once. You are doing exceptionally well. Let's keep getting better.